What I'm going to give you guys here is a sled routine workout, whatever you want to call it, that I used a lot when I was competing. This is Dave Tate with another edition of Quarantine Table Talk. Last time I talked about different progressions and exercises you can do with the bands. I will get back and do more of those, but I was asked to talk a little bit about sled training. So when it comes to a dragging sled, there's a lot of different options that you have here. We sell several different types of sleds. We have a steel sled. Then we also sell SPUDs, magic carpet sled, which is a good sled if you're indoors because you have to see what it is. It's cloth material, I suppose, nylon, cloth, whatever the hell it is. But it's good for indoors because it's not going to tear the shit out of everything. Steel sled's good for outdoors. It's the best thing about a steel sled, to be honest with you, is it'll drive your fucking neighbors crazy. So that's something that I like.
I don't give a f*** who the hell hears it! Really?
Nah, man, I'm cracking myself up sitting here because I'm thinking of all the neighbors that are going to call on you for being outside because they don't quite understand the concept of social distancing. So if you're outside, you know, they're going to call on you just for being outside, but fuck it. Now they can call on you for being outside and making noise with the sled. Anyhow, I regress. There's the sled. Let's get back to the sled. What I'm going to give you guys here is a sled routine workout, whatever you want to call it, that I used a lot when I was competing. And I used it for a few different reasons. I used it to build up the glutes and hamstrings. So this part, the front end part of this is heavy, you know, to be able to build that up. I also used it for recovery and I used it for GPP. So I'll explain, you know, how this all kind of flows together as I present this. So the strength aspect is going to be just forward dragging. So you put you put your belt on and then you put the strap through your belt. So you're dragging the sled behind you. I like this better than I like a harness for the goals that this is going to try to accomplish, which is building up the glutes and the hamstring, because the load's going to be closer to that. And it's going to take a lot of your upper body out of it because the load's going to be lower as well. With the forward drags, I always kept things easy, and I keep things easy when I have other people do this as well. You can go off distance if you want, and you got a way to mark it. I just always went off 25 steps. So a trip would be down and back. So 25 steps down, rest, and then 25 steps back. How long is the rest on these? Not long. So just about long enough to go down, spin the sled around, maybe 15, 20 seconds, 30 at the most, and then back down again. With the forward drags, they're heavy. So you're going to use as much weight as you can or as much weight as you have access to for this. You can also use a tire. I should probably put that out there, or just anything that you can tie a rope or a strap around to be able to do these works. You do want to have the ability to be able to increase or decrease weight. So with the forward drags, you're going to do 2 trips. Again, that's down, rest, back. That's 1 trip. So you're going to have, 4 sets, I guess you would call it, for this. So with the forward drags, load that up so it's hard, down and back. Then you're going to do back drags. So basically you're just going to turn around, you're going to walk backwards. So the forward drags are more hamstrings, is where you should feel it. And when you're doing the forward drags, try to rip your heel into the ground as you are stepping. So be very deliberate on your steps. Just don't go and walk or try to, muscle fuck through it. You don't want to do that. Just be deliberate on trying to almost do a leg curl in a way, like the start of a standing leg curl is how you want to initiate it, and then flex your ass at the end, of every step, to be very deliberate about it. Try not to lean forward, try to stay upright so you're keeping the tension on the hamstrings and glutes. So you're going to do the forward drags and you're going to do the backward drags. The backward drags are going to be more quad dominant. So you're going to be, pushing out from there. Again, try to restrict the momentum, be deliberate with the steps. Once you do those, you really shouldn't have to reduce the weight. If you do, you can reduce it a little bit. Then you're going to go into rows. So just grab the strap and pull. So you're going to have a strap that goes from the sled around your belt. Then you'll have a second strap that's going to go through the first strap, which a lot of us will just call it an upper body strap, and we sell both on the site, but it can be a rope, it can be whatever you can find. It's just you have to have something to be able to pull with or to press with as well. So you want to do, 2 trips of rows. So down and back, same number of steps, same logic with these trips here. So down, rest 15, 20, 30 seconds, whatever it is, and come back. So you're going to hit the forward drags, the back drags, then rows. Then you're going to hit presses where you're just pushing through with that strap. So rows, presses. Then you're going to reduce the weight and you're going to go into front raises for 2 trips as well. Rear raises for 2 trips as well. And then if you want, you can go into like a tricep extension with it as well. When you get into the upper body stuff, you can reduce the rest periods and should. I usually recommend once you get to the front raises, rear raises, and those things, just get rid of the rest period entirely because the weight's going to be light, for a lot, it may be 25 pounds and maybe 45 pounds, something like that. So it's not going to be like the forward drags and rear drags to where you're going to feel winded or exhausted. The stuff down towards the end, the front raises, the rear raises, the tricep extensions, and the ankle drags, which I'll talk about in a minute. Those aren't going to be as exhausting, so to say, but they're going to be more GPP oriented because the rest period is going to be completely taken out. So there'll be larger rest periods at the front end of this when things are heavier. When things lighten up, you're going to take the rest periods out. So it's just going to be down, back, down, back, down, back. Because by the time you do the rows, presses, front raises, rear raises, triceps, and ankle drags, you're looking at 12 trips total. So you're looking at, 24 down and backs or 24 reps. So you're talking a pretty good period of time that you're going to be out there moving. So that's where the recovery aspect comes in, because when you get down to this, especially on the lower end stuff, there's going to be no eccentric loading. So there's a lot of concentric loading. So there's a lot of blood that's going to be flushed into the muscle to be able to help aid in the recovery process without a lot of tissue tear down that comes with the eccentric part of the training. So that's pretty much the whole training session. Is you're going to start with the forward drags, backward drags, rows, presses, front raises, rear raises, tricep extensions, and then the ankle drags, which I forgot to talk about. The ankle drags, you're just going to take the straps. They should be loop straps that you're using for your upper body. Slip your feet through the straps, and then you're going to walk, kind of like you got a little kid grabbing on your ankle and you're dragging them across the floor. That's kind of what this is. When you do that, as with all these other things, all the steps need to be deliberate. They need to be intentional. When you're doing it for the ankle drags, you want to keep your hand on your obliques and make sure every time you're bringing the leg through, you're bringing it through with more than just the hip flexors. You're bringing it through with the whole frontal abdominal wall, obliques, the whole torso with the hip flexors kind of all at the same time, synchronized, I guess is what you would say, to be able to make sure that it's deliberate and it's working what you want to work. So you're not muscle fucking this shit through. You have to make the steps deliberate, and you're not just out there running back and forth. You're out there doing things deliberately. So you're working the muscles in a way that's going to actually help your lifts, which is the point of all this. Right now, it can serve a different purpose because you're not able to get into the gym. So this can be pushed a lot harder than if you were doing it for recovery. So don't be afraid to load the weight on these things. And I'll talk about the loading here in a second. But don't be afraid to load it, because it's not like this is going to screw up the training that you're doing in the gym. This is going to be a big part of your training. So as I said in the last video, still do all the maintenance stuff that you're doing, but add this and the band stuff to it. So when you get back to the gym, you will actually be better and not just maintaining things. So this is to help increase your general physical preparedness, but to also, increase small body parts that you may not be able to hit with a lot of the other things that you're doing. You're going to use a 4-day progression on this. So the first day, you're going to move the heaviest weight that you can possibly move, or the most weight that you have access to for all these trips. So it's going to be trial and error. Some of it might be too heavy. You might not be able to finish it. That's okay. You have time, so figure out what you can do that's going to be the heaviest for this. So you're going to feel tired as hell, after you get through the whole first session. That will be your day 1. Day 2 will be the day right after it. So no days off between this. So day 1, day 2, you're going to reduce the weight by 1/3. Is that right? Yes, you're going to reduce it by 1/3. So I don't want to give percentages because you might be using rocks and shit like that. So just take 1/3 of the weight off for the second day, but keep the trips the same. Keep the steps the same. The only thing you're going to change is you're going to reduce the load. You're going to reduce the weight. On the 3rd day, you're going to reduce the weight again by 1/3. So not 1/3 off day 1. You're going to reduce it by 1/3 off what you used on day 2. On the 4th day, that's the day you're going to take off. Then on day 5, you're going to come back and you're going to repeat day 1. Same thing. There's no reason to take the trips up. There's no reason to increase the weight or any of that yet. So just go through this whole thing for the first, 5 days? Because you're going back to day 1. Go through it for maybe 15 days or 3 rotations. Then after the 3rd rotation, either take the overall weight up on day 1, which is going to it's going to change the weight that's going to be on the other days because it's all based upon what you do on day 1. So either take the weight up on that day or add in a half of a trip with each exercise. It's completely based upon you, but it's also based upon if you have access to the weight or not. So that's the sled training that I have for you guys. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you want to have more of this stuff, let us know. I can do this kind of all fucking day if I have to. Let us know. Thank you, and out.
I came from the mud. There's dirt on my hands. Strong like a tree. There's roots where I stand. Oh, I've been running from the law.